Welcome to the Free Poor Sports Entertainment segment. I'm Nick Lee, and I'm here to talk about some college football. Starting with the top 5 teams in college football, we've got number 1, the Georgia Bulldogs. Number 2, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Number 3, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Number 4, the Texas Longhorns. And number 5, your Free Poor sleeper team, the Miami Hurricanes. That brings me into some positive takes, starting with Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Cam Ward put on an absolute show in the swamp yesterday. He looked sensational. People in the NFL look for people like Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Cam Ward looked like that guy in the swamp. Ladies and gentlemen, he could potentially be a top 5 quarterback going into this year's NFL draft, and he has an opportunity to be a Heisman candidate. Positive take number 2. In most football programs, or most sports in general, there is a C on people's chests for captains. But in primetime Deion Sanders' program at Colorado, he has L's for leaders and he has D's for dogs. And Travis Hunter is an absolute dog. The man plays on offense. He plays on defense. Ladies and gentlemen, he played for 129 total snaps. And the man looks like he's an absolute talent. He's going to be a top 5 NFL draft pick. And he's going to be in New York right next to Cam Ward in that Heisman Trophy conversation. That brings me to positive take number 3. All off season long, as a Buckeye fan, all I've heard is that Ryan Day needs to take on the CEO role. His offense was shaky. His defense was questionable. He gets it fixed up, and they still come up short. But everybody still said he needed to go to the CEO role. He calls his buddy Chip Kelly in, and it just looks like this might be the year that Ryan Day takes Ohio State at the top of the top by winning the national championship this year. And last but not least, for my last positive takes, we had some young guys that were absolutely balling. We had Jeremiah Smith, Nico Iamaleava, absolutely going off. Young guys that are absolutely showing greatness for the world of college football. Now we have some negative takes. If I am a Florida Gators fan, which I'm not, thankfully, but for those of you that are, you have to be pissed off. Billy Napier, he was going to be the savior. You got Dan Mullen out the door. And in these 3 years, Billy Napier is 11-15. You got absolutely destroyed by Miami yesterday. You're not even looking like you're going to compete. Oh, and by the way, Billy Napier's buyout. His 85% of his remaining contract, $26 million. Google it. All right, negative take number 2. Dabo Swinney. Look, when you're doing something and it's working, it's admirable. It's admirable. But here's the issue. When you lose, people keep receipts. And Dabo Swinney, you have refused to go to the transfer portal. And it's costing you big games. It's cost you against Ohio State now. It's cost you against Georgia. You don't have Deshaun Watson. You don't have Trevor Lawrence. And you're not as strong as you were defensively up front. You might want to enter the transfer portal, or the people in South Carolina might be saying goodbye. And then last but not least on my negative takes, Oregon. Last season, you were with all the hype. You brought in totally different new expectations, and you finally made the jump from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. But then you only scored 24 points against Idaho? 24 points against Idaho. What are we doing? You have to compete against Ohio State. You have to compete against the team up north. You have to compete against USC. You have to compete against Penn State. You're not going to win by scoring 24 points against those teams and a team like Idaho. You're just not going to do it. And then last but not least, there's only one way to really end this segment on a high note. And it starts with one question. What are we doing? South Carolina, I watched the game. You know, quarterback's job is just to get away. Be a distributor. Get away. Let the guys around you do their thing. And South Carolina's quarterback gives it to his running back. He runs to his right. Absolutely is no protection at all. Cuts back and goes to his left. And he finally looks like he's about to score. And then the quarterback comes in like a bat out of hell, hits him, and he literally tackles his running back. What are we doing? And then last but not least, Minnesota. 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 Good Lord. You know, you have time expiring off the clock, and you got to make a field goal. You missed the field goal, and you set the fireworks off. It was like a 4th of July parade. You set the fireworks off. You lost the game, and you had everybody else in the stands wondering, what are we doing? Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the sports segment. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.
Welcome back to the Free Pour Podcast. I'm Zach Moore.
And I'm Nick Lee, and welcome to episode 2.
Right, so right off the bat, we have some updates here. Apparently, Wendy's is releasing a Krabby Patty on October 8th in celebration for SpongeBob's 25th anniversary.
Seriously?
Yes, and there's going to be a pineapple Frosty as well.
Okay, this is crazy. But I gotta say, like Argyle says in Stranger Things, try before you deny. So I might try it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely willing to try it, especially the pineapple Frosty, but I'm a little iffy about what's in that burger.
Oh, dude, I'd be skeptical too. I mean, do you remember that episode in SpongeBob where Mr. Krabs literally eats a Krabby Patty? And he's like, oh, so this is what I taste like.
I do remember that.
Crazy.
In other news, GameStop announces retro stores, which I get it. You know, retro's definitely made a comeback. Well, I don't know if you would consider it that because the word's retro, but like 80s and 90s stuff has definitely made a comeback. So I get why, you know, people would maybe be interested in it. I'd maybe check it out, but maybe for collector's items or something, or stuff that's more rare if it's reasonable priced. But I can see how some people, yes, would be, you know, upset because it's like all the stuff, all the video games and systems that we've traded in over the years that GameStop hardly ever wanted to give us any, you know, money for. It's like they're gonna flip that around and sell it for hundreds of dollars now or something.
Yeah, and I mean, I would be pissed too. I mean, think about your dad or my uncles even. I mean, they used to play or pay or break the bank for an Atari, and it was cheap back then. But now they're probably gonna charge like $300, $400. It's crazy. But I gotta say, outside of a Krabby Patty from Wendy's,
Yeah.
I think I got something that's going to knock your socks off a little bit more.
What's that?
Chick-fil-A is literally having a streaming platform. And outside of, I have no idea what they're going to do. But outside of Chick-fil-A's Chick-Flix, I have no idea what they're going to do.
Chick-fil-A, yeah. It's interesting. Streaming like Netflix.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I mean, they've considered themselves a Christian company before. I don't know if they still do. So that can maybe, I don't know. If it's not just going to be something like a reality show inside the restaurant and they're trying to actually put all different types of entertainment, maybe there will be some decent Christian stuff or family stuff on it. Who knows? Hopefully nothing too corny.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully not. But speaking of entertainment, in the anime world, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news, which I always like to start with, after nearly 2 years of doing nothing, there's news that Hunter x Hunter is reportedly bringing back its manga. And I'm very excited because the anime ended on a good note, but I always wanted more. So I'm really excited, and I hope that they'll quickly adapt the manga into the anime.
I actually never got into that one. It's pretty good.
Oh, dude, it is definitely good. My coworker actually got me into it, and I'm glad she did because I really love it. I know we're really big on Yu Yu Hakusho, and
Yeah,
that writer actually, Hunter x Hunter is actually something that they did after that. But I also have some sad news, which both of us can relate to this or understand this. Unfortunately, My Hero Academia last month actually came to an end with its manga, which most definitely probably means that the My Hero Academia anime is probably going to be coming to a close too.
It's been a good run.
All good things coming to an end.
Yep.
But I also got some great news too outside of that. College football is back. I'm so happy that I can finally watch my Ohio State Buckeyes. But I don't just want to highlight the things that they're doing on the field, but I also want to highlight what they're doing off the field. We've got star players like Travion Henderson, G. Scott Jr., Caleb Downs, and so many other guys that are doing great things off the field as well. they actually have their Christian apparel, which is Jesus one. But not only that, they're actually evangelizing and baptizing people, which is ultimately great for Columbus.
Nice, yeah. It's always good when people are more vocal with their faith or, try to share that even within their careers or hobbies or interests. And that kind of leads me to what I wanted to talk about a little bit. Apparently, or not apparently, but I'm pretty sure everyone has heard about the controversy with the Olympics that was going on this year, with the whole people thinking that they was imitating the Last Supper, which, to me it looked pretty close to that, but,
Pretty
they tried
close.
to come out and say that, it was Greek mythology or whatever. But in other news, apparently they have been kind of muting people of faith. I've actually seen a video of that. Maybe we'll link it. But there's a Brazilian surfer who claimed that he actually wouldn't be allowed to enter the Olympics unless he took a picture or painting off of his surfboard of Jesus.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because, and I don't mean to say this in any way to offend people of other faith, but if it was any other faith outside of Christianity, would they have made that person do that?
That's kind of what I was asking myself too, because it's like, would they just claim if it's someone from another country, oh, that this is just a cultural difference? But, it being the Olympics, it's supposed to be open to everyone. So it's like, even if it's an American or someone claiming that they're Christian or whatever, they should, be open to all of that, I guess.
We definitely have to work on that as a country because we're talking about, being unified. And we can't just mute people, or even in politics, we're starting to see a lot of censorship, and we have to avoid that.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to the next point of politics, which, it only being the second episode, we didn't want to dive too much into it, but the world is definitely more divided than what it has been in a long time, maybe even ever. And, I think that people really need to get back to agreeing to disagree on stuff.
Yeah, and it all comes down to one thing, something that you and I are doing right now: communication.
Definitely.
We have to talk about different topics, like topics that nobody wants to talk about. And we have to get this idea out of our mind that, oh, if we're going to be unified, we have to agree on everything. No, our differences are important. Empathy is important. And it just comes down to putting our differences aside and working together for a greater cause, something that goes beyond ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, just because someone may disagree with you on one thing, and who knows, they could agree with you on way more than what they disagree with you on, but you're just going to completely shun them or, throw them into a certain label or a certain political party or whatever, and they might not even fully believe everything in that group. But just because of one thing, it's pretty crazy. And I don't think it really does any favors for anyone, Keeping that open communication is definitely important. But anyways, we're going to go to an entertainment segment real quick. So a quick break and we'll be back. And cut. I said cut. Beetlejuice, or Beetlejuice 2 is out this weekend. And you can expect a review coming soon from us. As far as other family movies go, Sonic 3 had recently dropped a trailer, and Keanu Reeves...
You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking.
John Wick himself, that's right, is doing the voice of Shadow, if you haven't heard. That's dropping December 20th. DreamWorks is also releasing an animated movie titled The Wild Robot. Now this one is apparently based after a book. I've never read the book, but it looks pretty interesting, a little along the lines of maybe something like The Iron Giant or Big Hero 6. So if you're a fan of those types of movies, this is coming out towards the end of the month as well. In other news, Deadpool and Wolverine has been doing pretty well, if you haven't heard. Apparently, it's the top grossing rated R movie of all time. Marvel, Disney, congrats. This is what it's like when you actually listen to the fans, recall source material instead of trying to push a bunch of political undertones. Hope this is a step in the right direction and that we can look forward to more successful Marvel movies such as the past. The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, The Book of Carol. Wow, that's a little bit of a mouthful of a title. Or you could just say Daryl Dixon Season 2 is also coming out towards the end of the month. Now, if you're someone who enjoyed the original Walking Dead show, or maybe kind of fell off of it, or you slept on the other spin-offs that came out, in my opinion, this is one of the better spin-offs. Not only does it have one of the more popular characters in it, it's just a more unique story, it's set in an interesting location, and the budget seems on point. As far as my anime fans, Dragon Ball Daima is set to release in Japan on October 11th. Now, as far as I know, I don't think it really follows the Dragon Ball Super story, and I know some people were a little iffy on it because it seems like the majority of the characters are kids for some reason. Not entirely sure how they're doing that, but I think I heard something like the villain casts a spell on them and turns them into that. Regardless, it is one of Akira Toriyama's last pieces of work. Rest in peace. Me being a big original Dragon Ball Z fan, I know I'm going to check it out and maybe just give it a chance. Other than that, as far as Dragon Ball Super goes, according to DBZ source, we should expect to hear something by December. That's it for me. Let's get back to the show.
Welcome back from the segment. We just got done talking about politics and open and honest communication with people not only outside of a circle, because it's also important to communicate or have open and honest communication with some of the people that you care about the most.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of a video I seen recently. It tied more into like religious topics or Christianity, but it could actually apply to politics or different topics like that too. It was actually a video by someone of the name Frank Turek, and if you don't know, he's an apologist, and apologetics is basically the scientific and historical evidence in Christianity. But this video, it was titled Lies of Love, and he was talking more specifically about how people actually have love backwards, and they think that it's all about approval, but really love is sacrifice.
Yeah, and that immediately makes me think about parents.
Yeah, he actually mentioned that.
Yeah, because, I thank God, my mom and Graham didn't approve of every little thing that I ever wanted to do or anything like that. And that comes down to them wanting to protect, me, or, parents wanting to protect their children, because even though open and honest communication hurts sometimes, which basically we've all heard, the truth hurts, and it can hurt or make us mad for a little bit. But eventually we may come around and realize they were just trying to protect us. And that doesn't just apply to parents and children. It can also apply to friendships or even relationships. Maybe you have that best friend or boyfriend or girlfriend that maybe has that bad habit, or they're not being their best version of themselves. But by you being honest or upfront, it could encourage them to put their best foot forward, and it could also really allow them to heal.
Yeah, he was actually talking about too, like, for some people, if they're too afraid to mention something that they know is wrong that their friend or someone is doing, then that's actually kind of selfish, and you're focusing more on yourself rather than actually showing care towards that person. And that actually kind of reminds me of some people who will say things like, oh, the Bible is all full of rules, or, God doesn't want me to have fun. But actually, I think, too, that it can kind of apply to the thing that we said, how a good parent's love. And I know some people kind of will relate God to a loving parent, and in some ways I think you can, but I think it's also definitely different. There's some people that may not have had the best relationship with their parents. And I think what I was going to say is that basically in the Bible, the reason why he says certain things like that is more so out of a place of love or care, because he knows that those certain things can actually hurt us.
Yeah, for sure. And, we talk about, loving people and being honest with people. But honestly, sometimes before you can love others and be honest with others, you honestly have to love and be honest with yourself. I mean, and that starts with the whole basic like self-improvement journey, which in the last episode, we talked about our self-improvement journey
Right.
and finally getting into, working out. We work out 3 to 4 days a week. We basically have 2 simple splits, but we basically stretch it out to 4 days. We have our upper body and our legs. For upper body, we do bench press. We do chest flies, traps. And then for legs, we do squats. We do calves, which is my favorite. And then we also have arms and stomach. Arms is fun because you got your, curls and, your tricep extensions.
Right. Definitely.
Then, you also have a stomach, which we hate, but afterwards you feel a
core.
lot better. But there's also variations to, different things, especially for people that have like back issues and certain things that just kind of like, stop them from working out the best way. Like you can do seated variations. You can do like a seated curl. You can do goblet squats. You can do planks because that doesn't put as much pressure on your spine. And so self-improvement is important. And like we said, if you can love and focus on yourself, you can truly be better for others as well.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, it's important to try to start somewhere. Like, obviously, when him and me both first started, we weren't, until you build up that routine, you're not really able to, or sometimes you might get kind of sick, or if you're someone that may have certain health issues or be really overweight, you might get out of breath quickly or whatever, but it's just important to start somewhere and slowly build it up, even if it's, just getting out and taking a walk and getting some fresh air. And I just feel like, definitely self-improvement.
Yeah, and the most important thing too, and a really good quote that I've heard, I believe it was Theodore Roosevelt who said this. He says that comparison is the thief of joy. And basically, in terms of self-improvement, maybe you go to the gym and you walk in and you see that guy who's just absolutely shredded, or if you're a girl, maybe you see that girl who just seems like she has that perfect, all jokes aside, that hourglass and everything else, but we're all starting somewhere.
Definitely on social media all the time.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
Everybody looks perfect on the camera and everything else, but the only person that you should care about is improving yourself, because at the end of the day, you're all you got and you're all you really need.
Exactly. You have to start somewhere, and that's something like my dad has always said. Even if you are going to a public gym or something like that, they had to start somewhere, and everyone's kind of there for self-improvement. So you shouldn't be concerned with them. It's more so like, do you really want this with your life? And just being willing to take those first steps. Otherwise, you'll never know.
Yeah, and another famous quote from my uncle is, "A winner is really only a loser that tried one more time." So we just want to end on a good note and encourage you to just give that thing, or just try one more time, whether it be working out, whether it be something creative that you want to do. We believe in you, and just stay tuned for the next episode because we're excited. We're looking forward to doing something for you.
Remember, here at the Free Pour Podcast, we love to pour freely into what the hell, man?
Disclaimer. We're not encouraging you to get faced. We're just trying to encourage you to be better in other aspects of your lives. Like and subscribe.